everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shaki and today I'm coming to you with my September wrap up, which is on time. Yes, win! So I managed to read a total of 5 books in the month of September and I'm going to be going through all of them with you. 3 of them were for the Zodiac-a-thon, these 3, and then 2 of them were just me reading throughout the month, which is absolutely awful because I am in a reading slump. But yeah, I still managed to read 5 books and today I'm going to be talking about them and my opinions. So the first book that I managed to read in the month of September was The Gun Honeymooners by Christina Lauren, which I gave a 4 stars. So this is basically about our main protagonist Olive, who has always been unlucky, and her sister, who is like the total opposite and is very lucky, Amy. Amy is getting married and Olive is one of obviously her bridesmaids, and when they all go to the wedding, the people who eat the buffet food get sick, and the only 2 people who don't get sick are the best man, who coincidentally is the groom's brother, and Olive, who is Amy's sister. So because Amy has literally won everything about this holiday and the honeymoon is supposed to be really nice, she encourages Olive to take it, and in turn her husband also encourages his brother, the best man Ethan, to take it as well. Olive and Ethan do not get on and they have to share a honeymoon suite together and act like they're a married couple to get away with it. I thought this was really good. I did give it a 4 stars and it was really easy to read, especially during a readathon, which obviously I read this during the Zodiac-a-thon. I feel that way about all Christina Lauren books. I would highly recommend any of their stuff for you to read in a readathon, to put in your TBR, because they're really easy to read. I also like the fact that this plot wasn't just about the romance, it was also about other things floating around the plot, such as the sibling focus and the relationship between Amy and Olive, which I really like because I have 3 siblings and I love them all, and I loved the fact that this book focused around sibling relationships, not just the romantic one. I also loved the way that Christina Lauren did the whole dislike to lovers trope. It wasn't hate to lovers, but they just didn't get on, and they obviously fall in love while pretending to be married, as you do. But I thought it was really well done and there was no points where I thought it was abusive or like a bit, you know, risque or anything like that. I thought it was really well done throughout. However, I don't really think the entire story was believable, like Amy being really lucky to the point where she literally won every single part of her wedding. She only spent $1,000 and every single little bit she had won and was lucky enough to do so, which I don't really personally find believable, like, at all. I also didn't really like the pacing of the book. I feel like they got off their honeymoon way too soon and I thought that was going to be the focus of the general book, and it wasn't as slow burn as I would have expected it to be, which I think would have made the story more believable and added to its effectiveness. I also didn't really like Olive as a main character. I thought she was really bitter and jealous and I didn't really like her that much. She does try and like fix her ways and acknowledges that she isn't being a very good person, and it isn't like a change overnight kind of thing, which I really liked. Normally when a main character is flawed, they change overnight and realise how wrong they were and go to apologise to everyone they've ever done wrong. But with this, it wasn't like that. However, I still didn't enjoy Olive for the majority of the book, and that is really important to me in liking the main character. But that didn't hinder the experience too much, as I still did give it a 4 stars and would highly recommend reading it in a readathon or if you're in a slump, because I was in heaven with this book. The next book that I completed during the Zodiac-a-thon was The Mermaid's Voice Returns, in this one by Amanda Lovelace. This is the 3rd and final instalment. I think it's the final one, I'm not sure if it's doing more. It's the final instalment, I think, of a like feminist poetry collection all about heartbreak, love, body image and everything that you can kind of name. I gave it a 3.65 just because I don't think it was as strong as the other 2 books, but it does still have the mystical, magical, fairy tale flair that I really like about these books. It was really quick and easy to get through, so again, I would highly recommend if you're going to be reading it through a readathon or in a slump. And these books also come with loads of validation and representation for different aspects. Although the aspects of this I didn't really relate to, and this was kind of the weak one for me, you can find anything to relate to in here. You can find something for anybody in here. These are so relatable and I highly recommend. I would recommend the second one more than the first or the last one, but this one was still pretty good. And the 3rd and final book I managed to read during the Zodiac-a-thon was The Boy in Striped Pyjamas by John Boyne. If you didn't know, this is a very loose historical fiction about a family who have to move to basically Auschwitz. It's basically all about Bruno, how naive he is, pushing the boundaries of being naive and even like being friends with a Jew without realising who he is. I really liked the message of this, and being prejudiced against Jews but I do think it missed the mark because I've read quite a few reviews stating that it is very historically inaccurate and kind of paints Bruno as being really dumb. Speaking of Bruno, again, I didn't like his character, and it's kind of crucial for me personally to like main characters, and I just didn't. I found him, again, very stupid and dumb and just really ignorant. I don't think the story was believable at all. It is sad, and I don't think it could have been possible to happen. There are a lot more in-depth Goodreads reviews and video reviews on this from people who survived the Holocaust or have family that survived the Holocaust, etc, etc, or just are Jewish and have that experience. I don't, and I would take their word for it rather than John Boyne because... But I do like the message. I can appreciate him trying, which is the main thing. Next, we have a read for the Greenathon that I'm hosting. If you didn't know, I'm hosting the Greenathon. It is a year-long readathon of all of John Green's books. We have read all of them almost. We've almost done Looking for Alaska. We've done all of them apart from The Fault in Our Stars and Let It Snow. So there is still time to join in if those are your favourites and you want to read them along with us. From September 10th to October 10th, we have read Looking for Alaska, and it is my favourite book of all time, as some of you, most of you, maybe possibly all of you may know. Obviously, I go to 5 out of 5 stars because it is my favourite book of all time, and I won't be discussing my points in depth because I'm saving that all for the Greenathon review, which I'm trying to plan and write as best as I can, but I feel like every time I feel like I'm done, I'm missing something. So I'm going to just hold off, and it will probably be up on the 10th or maybe the 11th or around that date mark when the read actually ends, because it is still going. Don't panic if you haven't finished yet. But if you didn't know, this is basically about Miles, aka Pudge. He is nicknamed because he is very skinny, and it's irony. Ha ha ha, so funny. Not. He goes to a boarding school and he meets loads of unlikely friends. He was literally a loner beforehand, and he goes to a boarding school far from his house to seek a great perhaps and meets loads of great perhapses, including Alaska Young, who already has a boyfriend. She's very mysterious, very enigmatic, very typically Scorpio, and he wants to be all up in her grill, but he can't be, or can he be? Ooh, that's the question. This book is full of really funny and philosophical quotes, and it makes my heart happy. This book is fucking home for me, and I'm so glad we got to share the experience of reading it together for the readathon. Again, I won't be going into too much detail, but what I really like about this book is that it's my favourite. It does feel like home for me. I love the characters, Takumi, Miles, Alaska, Chip Martin. I love all of them, and they all are just my babies. I love how philosophical all of John Green's books are, but this one takes it to another level, and it gets very philosophical about death, and that is something I'm very afraid of. And the whole section of grief with this and what Miles goes through, obviously no spoilers, but Miles goes through a lot of grief in this book, and kind of all the characters do, because of a tragedy which is alluded to right at the beginning. And I understood more about the grief side of this rather than the first time going into it, and it just spoke to me a lot more. You know you have a good book on your hands, or it's one of your favourites when you can reread it time and time again and get different readings out of it and different uses and gratifications from it. Just hinting at some of the things I think could be improved, not necessarily anything that I don't like about this, because I did give it 5 out of 5 stars, but some things I do think that can be improved because no book is perfect. I do think that this book, interestingly, would be better if, and I'm not saying it's not amazing without this part, this would be so much better if it was new adult, not young adult. And I have said that to a handful of people, including my boyfriend, and they've all said, oh my god, I agree, that's what is missing from this book. I wish that Miles, instead of going to a boarding school, went to a university and it was all based on the first year of university. That's what it feels like to me, and I think that's how it should have been marketed and written, from a point of view of a freshman, or like a fresher, that's what we call it in the UK anyway, rather than someone going to a boarding school, because they aren't that old. And obviously one of the things that could definitely be improved is the slightly problematic language and handling of certain subject matters. So in here we do have the R slur used once by a really fucking shitty character, but be aware of that going in. It was written like 12 years ago, which I know is no excuse. Don't ignore it, acknowledge it, but also think that it's like aged really badly. I also forgot to say that my Zodiacathon vlog, which I was supposed to upload at the beginning of September when the second round was, will be going up very soon, because I have managed to salvage the footage that was aired by my old laptop, and I'll be editing it on my new one very, very shortly. So you'll have it as soon as I can, hopefully within the end of the month, along with my tattoo vlog for my rune, because I found that footage and salvaged it as well. So not all is lost. I'm very, very happy about that. But if you see some old vlogs and like some information I say about stuff is wrong, I will change it in the editing, and I'll like add captions or mini videos of me going like, that's wrong, it's old footage. But yeah, so look out for that. I forgot to say that. that is coming, don't you worry. And the last book that I managed to read in the month of September was Paperweight by Meg Haston. I gave this a 4.25 and I did not anticipate liking it as much as I did. I didn't even anticipate reading this in September. I just picked it up because I fancied it and I really, really enjoyed it. So this is basically about Stevie, who has an eating disorder. There's no denying it that she has an eating disorder. So trigger warnings for that, and suicide and grief and a lot of mental health things. Please, please, please be careful going into this. It is literally the only bad thing I can say about it is how much it triggered me. For me, the visualization of this in my mind and the words on the page alone were enough to trigger me for someone that doesn't get triggered by books. So if you do and you're like quite, you know, triggered by books sometimes, maybe avoid this one, but if you can stomach it, definitely read it because it's very, very, very good. So yeah, it's about Stevie, who has undeniably an eating disorder, and she goes to a treatment centre because her dad's obviously very worried about her and she's basically almost about to die. What is not told, I don't think, by the description is that her brother has just died and she feels guilty for his death because she believes it's her fault, which I had no idea going into that, and when that happened I was like, oh god, here we go. But the story of Josh and her grief and the, again, sibling relationship that they had and her yearning for him and missing him and trying to do what was right for him, it made me very sad and bond with her quite quickly, Stevie that is, and it made me really like her. Since we're on to Stevie already, we're going to just go into things that I liked about this. Again, Stevie, I found her very, very negative and triggering actually at the start because you're literally in the point of view and the mindset. It's a bit like, it's kind of a funny story by Neverzini. You're in the point of view of someone who is suicidal, who has an eating disorder, and as someone who's recovering from that, it was a very, very risky path to go down. I actually almost stopped reading it because of that reason, because I knew that it could go one of two ways, but I didn't, and I'm so glad that I didn't stop, because I just thought Stevie's growth and her learning to not only love herself but other women as well in her like cohort of the like community treatment centre that she's in, just learning to love herself and others and accepting everyone for their bodies no matter who they were, was really nice to hear and to see. Although obviously by the end of the book she isn't 100% cured, but she goes on this journey, this character development, this arc that is beautiful to watch, and I relate to it so much. Speaking of characters, I really, really enjoyed the Shrink. I needed her when I was a teenager and I actually took away a lot more from her like paragraphs of dialogue and her advice to Stevie and talking about, you know, some things in her life and how it makes her feel. I feel like some counsellors, therapists, shrinks, whatever you kind of want to call them in these like YA mental health sad books, they aren't proper therapists to me anyway. I studied psychology for a little bit. I'm not exactly 100% cleared up, and I'm sure people who actually study psychology for a longer time than me and are going into therapy would have a better grasp on this, but to me, I do feel like sometimes in YA where there's like therapists or therapy spoken about, the therapists don't talk very therapist-y, and I feel like Meg Haston, the author of this, got that bang on and was really talking to Stevie, the character. You know, they were interacting as if a patient and a therapist would. In turn with that, I do think that Meg Haston did her research in how therapists talk to their patients, how they keep things professional and not prompting them that everything's going to be okay in the end, because you're actually not allowed to do that, and most YA books do that, and I'm like, what? That's like the one rule of psychology and therapy. You're not allowed to promise someone that it's going to be okay because you don't know that. It was just good rep overall. I feel like she definitely did her research. I feel like she definitely got more than one thing on point with body image therapy, bulimia, anorexia. Everything was just spot on for me, and personally my experience, either it's an own voices novel or she's done her research, and I just applaud her no matter which one, because clearly both of them were difficult and they turned out to be amazing and a product that was great. Again, the only thing that I didn't like about it and was technically changed, I don't know if I'd change it, but it was very triggering for me, but it was worth it in the end. It had a really good payoff, and if you are easily triggered, again, maybe just like sit out this one, or maybe get a friend to read it first and let you know when certain points are coming up. But it is very triggering, so please, please, please look after yourself before consuming this, because it could potentially cause harm, but also could potentially change your life. So these are the 5 books that I managed to read in the month of September. There were 3 Zodiacathon reads and 2 non-Zodiacathon reads. I'd say my favourite of the month, discounting Looking for Alaska, was definitely Paperweight actually. The Honeymooners as a close second. There was literally wedges into it. But thank you so much for watching my September wrap up, which is actually on time this time. Wow, look at me go. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, because my October wrap up is going to be lit because it's a Simsathon and I've almost finished my first book on time, which, what the hell? How has this happened? Again, some backlisted vlogs and my Looking for Alaska review will be up very, very shortly. But for now, I hope that you have a wonderful time reading, and I'll see you the next time that I post. Bye!